In the year 3150, the galaxy was full of shining stars, giant warships, and thousands of alien nations. But inside all that beauty, there was a bitter truth. Humans were not respected. They were not treated as equals. Every alien species had their own story about Earth, and almost all those stories were cruel. They said humans were born in storms, raised in fire, and shaped by war. They said humans were beasts without souls. They said humans were animals who only understood violence and pain. They said humans had no art, no love, no honor, only anger. This was what young aliens learned in school. This was what soldiers whispered in their camps. This was what merchants repeated in markets. And because everyone said it, everyone believed it, on the alien station called Vos 9, there lived one human soldier named Evan Clay. He worked in the security wing. He guarded doors, checked passes, and followed orders with quiet discipline. His job was simple, but his life was not. He was alone. He had no family on the station, no friends, no one to talk to. He was seen, but never welcomed. When aliens walked past him, they never looked in his eyes. When he stood in the dining hall, no one invited him to sit. When he walked through the corridors, some aliens moved away, as if afraid he would attack. Some spoke loud insults to show they were not scared, beast, primitive, soulless. Evan heard these words almost every day. He never shouted back. He never fought them. He only breathed slowly and let the words pass like cold wind. He was tired of trying to convince people he was not a monster. Evan was tall, strong, and his eyes were tired but calm. He moved like a soldier trained to survive. He had scars on his arms from old battles he never talked about. When he was alone, he sometimes looked out the large windows of the station at the distant stars. In those moments, he did not look like a beast. He looked like a lost man searching for something he had not found yet. One day, something unusual happened. While Evan was sitting alone in the dining hall, eating plain food with silent focus, an alien medic walked toward him. Her name was Ariel Voss. She was young, with soft silver eyes that looked curious instead of fearful. Her hair was blue like burning flame, and she moved with a gentle grace. Most aliens avoided the human section, but she did not hesitate. She stopped right in front of Evan's table. Evan looked up, a little surprised. It had been a long time since anyone came close to him without fear or anger. Ariel cleared her throat softly and asked, "Do humans feel pain?" Her voice was not mocking. It was not cruel. It was full of honest curiosity, almost childlike. Evan stared at her for a moment. He wondered if it was a trick, but her eyes were calm, waiting for his answer. So he finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "More than we show." Ariel did not laugh or call him a liar. She did not walk away. She simply nodded slowly, as if she had learned something important. Then she asked one more question in a quiet voice. "Then why do you hide it?" Evan looked down at his hands. He could still feel the bruises from training, the aching muscles, the old scars. He took a deep breath. "Because showing pain doesn't fix anything," he said, "and it only gives people another reason to hurt you." Ariel listened, really listened. There was something strange about her. She did not look at him like a monster. She looked at him like a mystery she wanted to understand, before she could ask more. Another alien guard saw her and shouted across the hall, "Stay away from him. Humans bite." Some aliens laughed. Evan kept eating, pretending not to hear. But Ariel did not move away. She looked at the guard, then looked back at Evan. "Thank you," she said softly, as if he had shared a secret, and with that she walked away. Evan watched her go. His face did not change much, but inside his chest something felt warm, small, and confusing. It had been a long time since anyone asked him a question without hate behind it. He did not know it yet. But that small moment would change everything. After that day in the dining hall, something unusual began to happen. Ariel kept finding ways to be near Evan. She didn't have to. Most aliens avoided humans completely. Some feared him. Some despised him. But she walked past the security doors, past the warning signs, and sat quietly at a small table not far from where he ate. Sometimes she simply watched him. Sometimes she asked small, gentle questions. What is rain like on Earth? She asked once, her voice low and curious. Evan looked at her, a little surprised. He had grown used to silence, to being invisible. Yet here she was, asking about rain, something she had never seen. "Rain is soft and cold," he said slowly. "It washes everything clean. Sometimes it hurts your skin, but it makes the world feel alive." Ariel nodded, imagining it in her mind. She had no rain on her planet, only chemical storms and grey dust. "It sounds beautiful," she whispered, and so their unusual friendship began. Day by day, small questions became conversations. Evan told her about forests with tall trees that touched the sky, about rivers that sparkled under the sun, about cities that never slept, full of music and light. Ariel listened with wide silver eyes, drinking in every word as if it were magic. She asked about dogs. She asked about songs. She asked about stars and oceans. And every time he answered, Evan felt something strange inside, him a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He began to look forward to her presence, to the gentle curiosity in her voice. It wasn't easy. Not for him and not for her. Other aliens noticed. They whispered in corridors. They stared with disbelief. "Careful, Ariel. Humans are dangerous. Beasts have no souls. Don't trust him. Why waste time on a monster?" Evan never reacted. He had learned long ago that alien opinions were often shallow. He kept his eyes straight, his hands steady, and let the words slide past him. Ariel, however, ignored them completely. She smiled at him anyway. She brought extra water when the air was dry. She left small notes with sketches of her homeworld. She would even save him food she liked. One evening, she asked something that made Evan pause. "If humans are soulless, then why do you make art?" Evan blinked. He had not expected the question. He stared at her for a long moment, thinking. Humans painted, sang, wrote stories, and created music. Even in war, humans found ways to dream. But why ask that now? Because art helps us remember what we are, he finally said. Even when the world wants to call us monsters, we make something beautiful, to show we exist and that we care. Ariel's eyes softened. So even if others hate you, you still care. He nodded slowly, thinking of the countless battles, the endless alien insults, the loneliness he carried like armor. "Caring is what makes us human," he whispered. Ariel sat quietly beside him. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever asked him questions without judgment. For the first time, Evan felt seen. Truly seen, days turned into weeks. Their friendship grew, subtle and strong. He taught her simple earth songs, and she hummed along, off-key but laughing. He described the smell of fresh bread, and she tried to remember it in her mind. They shared small jokes. They shared stories of home. Evan realized he was beginning to care for her too, though he tried not to admit it. One afternoon, a group of young aliens cornered them in the hallway. They shouted, mocked, and pushed him slightly. "Leave her alone, or you'll regret it," Evan said, his voice low but steady. Ariel stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You will not touch him," she said, her voice sharper than any he had ever heard from her. The aliens hesitated. A few laughed nervously, but no one moved closer. Finally, they left. Evan felt a strange mix of gratitude and awe. She had risked herself for him, an alien risking herself for a human. No one had ever done that, and in that moment, he realized that this bond, this strange friendship, was more than just conversation. It was trust. That night, Evan stared out at the stars through the station's window. He could still hear Ariel's laughter in his mind, the gentle sound of her voice. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe humans were not monsters. Maybe he was not a monster. And maybe, just maybe, he could find a place where he truly belonged. And Ariel, far in her quarters, sketched a small picture of him strong, silent, but not soulless. A human who could feel, who could care, who could be more than the galaxy said he was. It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood. But both needed more than air, more than light, something that would change everything. The alarms screamed like a chorus of dying stars. Red lights pulsed through Vos9, and the hum of the station became a deafening roar. Evan's heart raced. He had fought battles before, but nothing had ever felt like this. He grabbed his rifle, checked the ammunition, and ran toward the corridors he knew too well. The Carrick's fleet had arrived. They were a merciless alien empire, known for attacking quickly and disappearing without mercy. Explosions shook the walls, sparks flew, and smoke filled every corner. Aliens screamed, alarms blared, and the floor vibrated under the weight of falling debris. Chaos had taken the station in its iron grip. Evan moved fast, trained muscles guiding him through falling panels and broken glass. Around him, soldiers, human and alien fought, screamed, and fell. The smell of smoke mixed with the sharp temps of alien blood. He ducked behind a console as a blaster shot hit the wall inches from his face. Sparks danced and burned the metal. Through the smoke, he saw Ariel. She was kneeling on the floor, tending to a wounded officer. Blood smeared her uniform, but she moved with calm precision. Her hands were steady, her silver eyes sharp. She had always looked gentle. Now, in war, she looked like a warrior of another kind. Evan's chest tightened. He could not let anything happen to her. Not her, not now. He pushed himself up, rifle ready, and ran through corridors filled with fire and screams. He fired when he had to, dodged when he had to, and kept moving toward her. A Carrick soldier jumped in front of him. Evan didn't hesitate. He fired, and the alien fell back, twitching. His mind was a storm. He couldn't stop thinking, if she dies here, I'll never forgive myself. The corridor shook again. A wall collapsed, and Evan barely rolled out of the way in time. Dust choked his lungs. He coughed, spat, and kept moving. Every step hurt. His side ached from old injuries. His arms burned from the strain. Yet he kept running. because the only thing stronger than the pain was the thought of Ariel in danger. He finally reached the med bay. It was chaos. Injured soldiers and medics lay scattered. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the room. But she was there, kneeling beside a wounded guard, whispering soft instructions, hands steady even as the world around her burned. Evan. She shouted when she saw him, her voice slicing through the chaos. "I'm here." He shouted back, taking cover behind a console. "Stay alive." The Carricks were relentless. They pressed forward, firing, yelling, breaking the station apart. Evan fired, reloaded, fired again. His body was screaming, his vision blurred, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Every alien that fell was a step closer to saving her. Every second counted. One soldier, faster than the others, leaped toward Ariel. Evan's hands shook, but he aimed. One shot, two. The alien fell. She didn't flinch. She barely looked at him. She just kept working, helping the injured, saving lives. Evan's chest tightened with a mix of fear and awe. She was small, fragile, gentle, but she moved like fire. And for the first time, he understood. Her strength wasn't in weapons or armor. Her strength was in courage. Her strength was in love. The battle continued for hours. The Carricks finally began to retreat, leaving the station in ruins. Smoke still filled the halls, alarms still blared, and fire licked the edges of broken metal panels. Evan's muscles ached, his side burned, and his chest heaved with exhaustion. But he forced himself to the med bay, and there she was, still kneeling, still working, still alive. Relief hit him like a tidal wave. He took a deep breath, shaking, and whispered to himself, "You're safe. She's safe." Ariel looked up at him then, her silver eyes softening. "You're hurt," she said, voice calm but firm. "Come here." Evan tried to walk toward her. His legs trembled. Pain flared in his side. He wanted to stay strong. He wanted to be the protector. But the truth hit him. He couldn't do it alone. He stumbled toward her, collapsing slightly against the console. She didn't panic. She didn't scream. She simply reached out, steadying him. Her hands touched his chest, felt the pain, and she whispered, "You can't do this alone, Evan. Let me help." For the first time in a long time, Evan allowed someone to see his weakness. Not a weakness of the body, but of the heart. He had fought and survived countless battles, but the battle to keep the ones you love safe, that was harder than anything else. And as the fire burned around them, as alarms blared and smoke curled through the halls, Evan realized something he hadn't before. He would fight for her. Not because of orders, not because of duty, but because she mattered. Because someone had seen him as more than a monster. And he could not let her go. The Carricks were gone for now. But the real war, the war of trust, courage, and survival was only beginning. Smoke still lingered in the med bay, curling in the dim red lights like ghosts of the battle. The stench of burnt metal and blood filled every corner. Evan's legs trembled as he stumbled through the chaos, the pain in his side burning sharper with every step. Each breath was a knife in his lungs, each movement a reminder that he was not invincible. Ariel was crouched on the floor, tending to a wounded alien officer. She moved with precision, her hands steady despite the panic around them. Evan froze for a moment, watching her. Even after everything, she was calm. Even after bullets and fire, she still cared. He wanted to reach her. He wanted to tell her to run, to escape, to live. But he couldn't. He couldn't leave her in the middle of this. He tried to take another step, and a jolt of pain shot across his side. Blood soaked through his uniform, sticky and warm. Evan's vision blurred. He clenched his teeth and forced himself to keep moving. Every instinct screamed at him to collapse, but he pushed forward, toward her. Ariel's head turned. Her silver eyes widened as she saw him. "Evan, your Sido, no," she cried, rushing to him. Her hands trembled as she grabbed his uniform, pulling him down to the floor. "Hold still. Don't move." Evan tried to laugh, a weak sound. "It's nothing. Just a scratch," he said, though the pain made him wince. "You're lying," Ariel said firmly, pressing her hands to his wound. Her fingers were gentle, but her grip was strong, determined. "You can't ignore this. You're bleeding too much." Evan closed his eyes. He had fought in countless battles. He had faced aliens twice his size. He had survived explosions and fire. But this being weak in front of someone he cared about, this was new. And it terrified him. "You're shaking," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I'm not used to losing patience," Ariel admitted, her voice breaking slightly. She applied pressure to the wound, carefully wrapping it with bandages she had torn from a nearby supply kit. Her hands moved fast, but each movement carried care, precision, and a quiet urgency. Evan looked at her, his heart tight in his chest. "I'm not your patient," he tried to joke, though the words sounded hollow even to him. "You are now," she replied softly, brushing a lock of blue hair from her face. "And I don't care what anyone says. I'm not letting you die on me." The chaos of the medbay faded around them. He could barely hear the distant shouts and alarms. All he could see was her silver eyes, her determined hands, her face marked with soot and tears. She didn't flinch, even as he trembled under her touch. She held him steady, like the world itself depended on her courage. Evan's breathing came in shallow gasps. The pain in his side was constant, but he felt something more raw, unspoken emotion rising in his chest. Fear, gratitude, something like awe. He realized how fragile life could be, how thin the line was between surviving and being lost forever. He started, but the words caught in his throat. Ariel leaned closer, pressing her forehead briefly to his shoulder, murmuring, "Just breathe. You'll make it. You have to make it." He wanted to tell her everything, how alone he had been, how little he believed anyone could ever care for him, how hopeless it all felt before she appeared. But the words would not come. Instead, he closed his eyes and let her hands guide him, let her strength become his. Minutes passed like hours. Every sound, every movement, every small gesture weighed heavy with meaning. Evan felt an unfamiliar warmth inside him. It was not physical. It was not about survival. It was about being seen, truly seen, by someone who chose to care despite everything the galaxy had said. Finally, Ariel stepped back slightly, examining her work. "You're alive," she said softly, almost to herself. Her hands lingered near his side, unwilling to leave. "But you're lucky, Evan. Lucky I was here." He opened his eyes, struggling to sit up. Pain flared again, sharp and unforgiving. "I'm always lucky when you're around," he whispered, his voice weak but honest. Ariel looked at him, her silver eyes glistening. For a moment, the walls, the alarms, the battle, they all disappeared. There was only this small, fragile connection between them. "You shouldn't say things like that," she said softly, brushing her fingers against his arm. It's dangerous. And reckless. Evan managed a faint smile, a flicker of humor hiding beneath the pain. I've never been good at following rules. She smiled too, but it was brief, shadowed by worry. Then let me take care of you, rule breaker. Just this once. Don't push yourself beyond what you can handle. Evan leaned back, letting her care surround him. He had faced countless horrors in the galaxy, but nothing had shaken him like this. Her concern, her courage, her willingness to risk herself for him. It was terrifying, beautiful, and overwhelming all at once. In that quiet, smoky medbay, surrounded by chaos and death, Evan realized something profound. He wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time in a long time, he believed that maybe, just maybe, someone could truly care for a human. The medbay was quiet now. The alarms had dulled to a low hum. Smoke lingered like a memory of chaos, curling in corners and across broken panels. Outside, the station still burned in some sections, but inside, a fragile calm had settled. Evan lay on a cot, bandages tight around his side, muscles still trembling from pain and exhaustion. Every heartbeat throbbed through him like a warning. Every breath was heavy, filled with the scent of burnt metal and antiseptic. Ariel sat beside him, her uniform still smudged with blood, not just his, but others she had saved. Her hair was messy, her silver eyes tired but sharp. She hadn't left him for a moment. Every time he shifted, she adjusted the bandages. Every time he breathed sharply, she pressed her hand lightly on his chest. You should be sleeping, Evan whispered, voice hoarse. He tried to meet her eyes, but the pain made it hard to focus. You've been awake for hours. I can't sleep, she replied softly. Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. Not after this. Not after seeing you like that. Evan's heart ached at her words. He had fought countless battles, faced death more times than he could count. Yet he had never felt this fear, this weight pressing into his chest. Not for himself. For her, you. You risked yourself, he said, struggling to sit up. Pain flared sharply along his side, and he groaned. Ariel gently pushed him back down. I didn't think, she admitted, her voice low. I just couldn't let anything happen to you. I couldn't. She looked away for a moment, brushing a stray lock of blue hair from her face. You don't understand. You're not just another human. You're more than I ever expected. Evan tried to smile, but it faltered. More than you expected, he whispered. What does that mean? She turned to him, eyes glistening, full of unshed tears. It means I care about you. More than I should. More than anyone probably should. And I don't know why. But I do, Evan. I care. The words hit him like a shockwave. He stared at her, his mind racing. He had never been told this before. Not by aliens, not by humans, not by anyone. He had always been the soldier, the protector, the silent one. But now someone cared for him. Really cared, I don't know what to say, he whispered, his voice breaking slightly. The pain in his side was nothing compared to the ache in his chest. No one's ever said that to me. Not in a long time. You don't have to say anything, Ariel said quickly, leaning closer. I needed you to know. After everything, after today, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Evan swallowed hard. He wanted to reach out, to touch her, to tell her he felt the same way, but words seemed impossible. Instead, he let his eyes speak. He let the steady beat of his heart, the ragged breaths, and the trembling in his hands speak for him. Ariel saw it. She leaned closer, brushing her fingers lightly against his arm. "You don't have to hide from me," she whispered. "You never have to hide from me." He closed his eyes, letting the warmth of her hand sink into him. The world outside, the chaos, the aliens, the war didn't exist. There was only this moment, fragile and precious, only her, only the quiet realization that someone believed in him, trusted him, and cared enough to risk herself for him. He started, voice rough, I've always thought humans were alone, that no one could understand us, that no one would care. But you," he coughed slightly, leaning back, and met her gaze again. "You make me feel like I'm not alone, that maybe I'm worth caring about." Ariel's eyes softened, tears finally spilling freely. She placed her hand over his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. "You are worth it," she whispered, "more than anyone knows, more than anyone ever will, and I don't care what they say about humans. I see you, Evan." For a long moment, the world seemed to stop. Smoke curled around them, lights flickered, and the medbay felt like a small island of safety amid a burning sea. Evan reached out, hesitantly at first, and took her hand in his. She didn't pull away. She let him hold it, let him feel her warmth. He whispered, voice trembling, "I care too, more than I've ever cared about anything." Ariel's lips quivered. She leaned closer, resting her forehead lightly against his. "Then we'll survive," she said softly. "Together, no matter what comes next." And in that moment, Evan realized something powerful. The galaxy could call humans soulless. The galaxy could call humans beasts. But here, in this quiet medbay, with smoke curling around them and the weight of a destroyed station pressing outside, he felt something undeniable. Humanity was not measured by what the galaxy thought. It was measured by love, courage, and the willingness to risk everything for someone else, and both of them had just done that. The medbay was silent now, but it felt heavier than ever. The distant hum of the station's damaged systems seemed to echo every thought in Ariel's mind. Evan lay on the cot, bandaged but pale, his breathing uneven. Every rise and fall of his chest reminded her of how close she had come to losing him. How close they had all come to losing everything. She sat beside him, still holding his hand, trembling slightly despite her best efforts to stay strong. Her silver eyes were wet, shimmering in the dim red lights. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why did you fight for me?" Evan blinked slowly, exhausted and weak, but his lips curved in a small, tired smile. "Because I couldn't let anything happen to you," he said, voice low and rough. "Not you. Not now. Not ever." Ariel shook her head, trying to steady herself. She had fought wars, treated countless wounded, and seen death in every form. Yet nothing had shaken her like this human lying in front of her. Not the fire, not the explosions, not the screams of the Carrack's fleet. Nothing. You risked your life for me," she repeated, disbelief in her tone. "After everything they said, after everything the galaxy said about humans." Her hands tightened over his, tears spilling freely now. "They said humans have no souls. They said humans are beasts. And yet you..." Evan reached up weakly, brushing a hand against her cheek. Whoever said that never met the right human, he whispered. His eyes locked on hers, steady and filled with quiet intensity. I have a soul, Ariel, and it's not mine alone. It's tied to people I care about. People like you. Her head dropped forward, forehead resting on his hand. She sobbed quietly, but the tears were not for herself. They were for him, for his bravery, for his heart, for the countless battles he had fought alone, for the pain he had carried quietly, and for the raw, unspoken truth that now filled the air between them. Humans could love. Humans could feel. Humans could sacrifice more than any alien could imagine. You idiot, she whispered, barely audible, her voice trembling. You put yourself in danger. For me, for me. She pressed her forehead harder against his hand, her sobs shaking her shoulders. Do you know what you've done to me? Do you know what you've made me feel? Evan's chest tightened. He had expected gratitude. He had expected relief. But he had not expected this. Her vulnerability, her tears, her honesty cut deeper than any wound. He started, voice rough. I didn't think, I had to, you had to. She repeated sharply, pulling back slightly to look at him. You had to. You risked your life, and nearly her voice broke again. You nearly died, Evan, do you understand? Nearly died. And you're lying there, hurting, bleeding. And I'm supposed to just... She choked, shaking her head. I'm supposed to just be okay with that. Just watch. Evan reached for her again, weakly but with determination. I'm here, he whispered. I'm still here, because I wanted to be. Because I care about you. Because you matter more than my own safety. Her silver eyes widened, the tears now freely streaming down her face. She couldn't stop them. She didn't want to. She had been trained to stay calm, to help others, to control every emotion. But now, all of that training crumbled. She let herself feel everything: fear, love, grief, and awe. You humans, she whispered, her voice trembling. They call you monsters, soulless beasts. And yet, she shook her head, unable to finish the sentence. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his chest this time. Then why? Why are you letting me care? Why are you letting me cry for you? Evan's voice was barely audible, soft and fragile, yet full of quiet strength. Because you see me. You see who I really am. Not what they say, not what the galaxy says, not what I believed myself. You see me, and that's enough. Your tears, they're proof that I'm not alone, that I have a place, that humans can matter. Her sobs grew louder, but now they were mixed with something else: relief, wonder, and the beauty of feeling deeply for another being. She pressed her face to him, finally allowing herself to show the full weight of her emotions. I can't believe it, she whispered. I can't believe I'm crying. For a human, you should, Evan said softly, a small smile on his lips, though his strength was fading. Because humans, we're more than they say. We care, we fight, we love, and we don't forget. Ariel looked up at him, eyes shining with unshed tears, voice trembling. Then why? Why are you letting me care so much? Why are you letting me cry for you? Evan's hand lifted weakly to her cheek, brushing away a stray tear. Because you're human too, in a way, he whispered. You feel, you care, you see me, and that makes you alive. That makes you my soul, She froze, heart racing. His words sank deep, more powerful than any explosion, more dangerous than any weapon. For a long moment, the medbay was silent except for their breathing. Then she sobbed again, resting her forehead on his shoulder, letting herself feel everything she had tried to hold back for so long. And in that moment, the galaxies lies the words about humans being soulless, dangerous and heartless, felt small and meaningless. She knew the truth now. Humans could feel. Humans could love. Humans could make you cry in ways that no one else could. And Evan Clay had just shown her that completely. Evan woke slowly. The medbay was quiet now, filled with a soft blue light from the emergency lamps. His head ached, his side throbbed, and his muscles felt like lead. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he heard the faint, uneven breathing beside him. Ariel was still there. She had been sitting in a chair beside the cot, her silver eyes fixed on him. She hadn't moved, hadn't slept.